Jim, we got everybody in?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to our first Fall Ball for Blues session here, kicking off the 2024 season. Yeah, it just seems like a month ago we were watching the Little League World Series championship game, and now we're starting the next season. That's kind of how it is here in Little League. So thanks for joining us tonight, and we're going to get going. We got a lot to cover here in our time together. So most of you have been on these with us over the last couple of years, so we don't really need to go through too much on the protocol, but just remember we are recording, so if you don't want anybody to see you, just shut off your video, keep yourself muted, and Jim is controlling letting people in and out of the meeting, and we have protocol to control questions and commentary. We have a small group. If you feel like you want to speak up and not interrupt someone else, we can have that happen. And let's stay on topic so we can get the great value out of this. So not trying to overwhelm ourselves tonight, since it is the first session. We want to cover a few things to get us back into the swing of being a Little League umpire. I want to talk just briefly about what happened in District 4 during last season, and then we want to switch gears. We want to start talking about umpire development. So some of you recall a year ago in our sessions, we talked some about umpire development. There's been a lot of things happening in Little League with umpire development organization. We're going to talk about that and share with you what our preliminary plans are for training activities in District 4. And then we're going to let Jim take over, and he's going to launch into some review and application of learnings from videos from the Little League World Series just completed. So again, our promise is no more than 90 minutes, maybe less. It's all up to you. This is your guys' meeting, and we can make it whatever you want it to be. All right, let's start with a quick summary of what's happened over the last 12 months in District 4 with umpiring. So I think we had a great training season. We had our Fall Ball for Blues sessions a year ago. We ended up with Jim and some other staff members, ran 6 different rules clinics, including some basic online clinics, plus some in-person clinics for softball and big diamond baseball. Those are well attended. And of course, those videos of those rules clinics are available on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and review rules. Because right now we don't have any new rules for next year. That doesn't mean we won't, but we have those rules clinic videos available. Staff umpires from the district helped out at least 4 different league clinics, and those were well attended at each league, maybe 35 students. Great activity. We were able to go out and help those leagues. And we had one district-wide clinic, which because of weather, we ended up doing indoors in a gymnasium, and that turned out pretty good. We got a lot out of that one district-wide clinic. Switching to the tournament season, again, outstanding cooperation and participation from every league in District 4. The really exciting thing is the number of actual umpires that we used was up some 15% from last year. So if you think back in 2020, we had no tournament, and 2021 we had very limited tournament activity. because most divisions weren't playing in the tournament time. So we've only, we've had 2 post-COVID seasons, and umpire numbers are on the upswing. 25% of all the umpires were youth umpires, led by many leagues who put teenage umpires out there on the field, not only during TOC or other lower level tournaments. We had them participating in the international tournament games. And one other really interesting thing is that the number of assignments were up from the prior year, and the number of larger than 2 umpire crews really increased as a percentage of all the games. So all of our leagues are doing the right stuff to support our tournaments. I think that Jim and Candido and I, as the tournament was going on, we kept commenting how easy it seemed to be able to fill all of our games during the tournament time. It was challenging to coordinate it all, but in the end, we got all the games covered somewhat easily. The other thing I'll say is we once again had great participation from umpires from outside the district who came to help us out. Kate Hart's on the call here. She helped us and came to Oakland, did an assignment in our senior baseball district tournament. We had crews from other districts across the section. We had an umpire from Sacramento, Joey Tigner, who came down and did some senior games, getting him ready for the World Series. So it was great to see folks from other districts coming. And I'm excited to say that leagues are starting to see the reality of the need for increasing attention to getting more umpires out in a volunteer or in a youth paid role, if you will, as their numbers of players are coming back to where they were pre-COVID, and more games are being played, and they just need more umpires. So great performance by all last tournament season. All right. By the way, if you have a question or anything, raise your hand, Jim, and we'll stop and answer questions. Just let me know. All right. Little League umpire development. What is going on? And we're going to show an 11-minute video of Gerry Davis at the Little League World Series. Kind of to set this up, Gerry is now the senior umpire consultant for Little League. He took on that role earlier in the year, and he supports all of the Little League umpire development activity, working with Tom Rawlings, who's the director of umpire development in Williamsport, and the umpire advisory committee, which is made up of members from each of the regions in the United States, with some representation from outside the U.S. Gerry, this video, if you may have seen his interview live, Gerry covers his view of what a Little League umpire is and what are the challenges that Little League umpires have when they go do regionals or World Series, and then what are the challenges that all of us have with finding, recruiting, retaining umpires. I'm going to warn you a little bit about this video. It's not the best quality. The guy who ripped it down from the broadcast on ESPN, there's some background noise and other things, but you may have to turn up your volume if you want to hear Gerry talk. So Gerry also goes into, he talks about a few of the new concepts, like the identification camps that are being run to review the skills of certain umpires for possible regional or World Series assignments. Talks about some of the areas where umpires are challenged. So sit back, it's an 11-minute video, and then we'll come back after the video's over. Oh, sorry.
Long time phenomenal umpire, Gerry Davis, who is now working with Little League Baseball. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much. Great to see you. And great to see you, Gerry. These are usually the rooms I try to keep out of. Not anymore. This is a friendly room, right? Yeah, great. Gerry's got a tremendous amount of experience with the World Series and the postseason. Oh, it's by and not in between. But now you're working with Little League Baseball, so that's what the purpose of that is. Well, I was very fortunate to okay, and in order for me to give something back, I mean, this opportunity is very rare, and I jumped at the opportunity when I had the opportunity to help with Little League International Junior Umpire Training Program. What I've been able to accelerate quite a bit. It's a free program for juniors around the country. You know, if they have interest in umpiring, they can get started. That, and then we're also expanding our identification camps so that we travel to each region.
Sorry, apologize.
And identify the umpires that will be in future World Series. These World Series and the regionals as well. Okay, so the separate groups. I'm interested in the Little League World Series. You can go to a particular place to train for that. That's correct. There are ID camps in each of the 5 regions that I have nationally. Yes. Oh, Gerry, what's the most important thing to tell these umpires who are learning to get better? What's the #1 recommendation? Well, I don't think there's any question at this level. I mean, this is a marathon for something. But I think if anybody is a baseball enthusiast at all, they need to come here. You know, I mean, it's something that wants to start as a common fair with a baseball game. I mean, we've never heard that. From an umpire perspective, the biggest thing here, obviously, is to try to relax. You know, because when these umpires come here, most of them become, you know, they do go to regional sports, but they're not exposed to this type of environment. Yeah. So we try to get them to relax, and you know, we're fortunate to have. This is Brian Henry, who's one of our returning umpires who has a lot of experience, and we're really fortunate that, you know, one of the things I say all the time is that a lot of people refer them to them as volunteer umpires, but I think they're umpires who volunteer their time. I mean, it's a big thing because they're giving back to the game. So it's a big distinction. That's an important distinction, though, is the umpires who volunteer their time. The volunteer umpire may suggest you literally just put them on wickets. That's not the case. They all come with experience. Well, you know, the thing that's interesting, how a lot of umpires get started, actually. A lot of umpires get started because a lot of the coaches get started. They coach because their kids do. Yeah. You know, and from an umpire perspective, they're in the stands on some Tuesday night at a local game, and the umpire doesn't show up. They ask them to come down and umpire, and they transfer up. How did you get started? A similar situation. I used to play baseball in St. Louis and hurt my arm and couldn't pitch. And the manager said, "Well, since you can't play, you're going to be the umpire." And I did that, and he said, "You know, you're pretty decent. You should think about going umpire school." I mean, I didn't even know there was such a thing. Strike 3 is someone before the down gets away from the infielder, so safe and second base. I'm curious, as you observe all the umpires, is there a particular issue, subject that you'd like to address that you want to really advance and you say, we really should work on this? Well, I think obviously the strike zone is one of the biggest things at every level. Yeah. And we can always improve that. We do that at clinics as far as striking the ball with your eyes. And that's one of the things that every umpire needs to do, regardless of the level they're at. And one of the things we look for is, you know, from being able to advance to this level is how instinctive they are. You know, because it's kind of easy to learn to be a spot umpire when you're in just a certain place. Yeah, like I can tell you where to stand in a minute a second. But when the throw's off line and you have to react, that's the kind of thing. Gerry, if an umpire makes a call or something that you need to talk to him about good or bad, would you do it right after a game today or tomorrow or something like that? That really depends on the severity. I mean, they have other games that are coming up. You know, you don't want to get in their head. You know, it's like something, a shortstop against the air, the same kind of things. But that's not true as far as praise is concerned. You know, one of the things they want to be is to be able to develop the type of culture that's a positive influence and makes them want to continue on. There is umpired 5 different World Series, six, including the 04 World Series that ended a long streak for the Boston Red Sox. Beyond your experience in the 6th World Series and all your other postseason experiences, is there a call or calls that umpires find to be the most difficult beyond the strike zone? Is there a particular call? I would probably say check swing, yes. You know, that's you know, the criteria that we use is getting off at the pitch, and people have different judgments as to the pitch. So Gerry's grandfather, he's the same age as me. His grandson is the same age as Mike Carcar. Tell us what your nickname is, what your grandson calls you. Well, that's umpire. Different place of there. So how did that come about? Well, he's watching you on TV, right? Yes, exactly. And your daughter, and he's inspired me. And he just blurts out? Exactly. So it's ironic and stuff. I don't know how, you know, where it came from. I'm sure it was being taught at a very young age. This is Campbell Foster. This one out the bottom of the second is a 2-2. He does not offer anything spotted. He catches over and the third base goes looks curious. Now, also, it's a really hard thing. Gerry, I spoke to what I consider our umpire expert at ESPN. His name was Josie Birch. We have a lot of those umpire experts. Well, but this one, this guy loves umpires, and I said, Gerry Davis is going to be in our booth tonight. And we said, Gerry Davis isn't a good umpire, or wasn't a good umpire. He was a great umpire. And he knows what I said. He knows that. And I said, so why? And he said, one thing Gerry did was avoid any type of major confrontation. Let's go to the 3-2, and that ball driven into the gap, and it is going to get hit. Already after the table, to the bottom, the California Order's doing it. It's 2-0. Gerry, how would you advise a young umpire to take control of the game? Obviously, it depends on what's happening out there. What's the best strategy to make sure you don't lose control of the game? Well, I think that, first of all, you have to live to your personality. I mean, you can't, if you are an anxious type person, it's difficult to be laid back. And if you're laid back and when you try to be aggressive, they have a chance to get in. Good job. I'm shaking who did the exact same thing last night. Pardon me, Gerry. He came in and backed up to throw at first and threw a runner up at third. So after Finley Green singled in the run, Colby Lee popped out a heck of a play by Luke. Heads up play by Chang there to back up. Really hot human being. It's very difficult. It really is. And the thing is, I mean, a lot of the stadiums that I started in, that looked like a hit, Gerry. Did you see that play? I didn't. This looked like it hit the batter's foot and it shot up in the air. And no one appeared to see it in the box. So that's a foul ball. They hit the batter and they didn't see it. Well, the pitcher's pointing it out, and I think he said that to the dugout, and here comes a man out. Let's go. The pitcher's right, and that ball hit off of the foot. Gonna have a good conversation. You can listen in. I did not have a microphone on, but he's right. Give Fred Kirchhoff credit. It's a great look at it. That ball went right off the foot of Lennon Salazar and a whole bunch of topspin. And this is a big play here because you're at the top of the order. Definitely his foot. I'm a little surprised that they are not asking to try to review that. That's a foul ball, and now you bring, here he comes again, here he comes. Now we'll have this right. Again, huge play in the game. But Jerry, for an umpire, right, every play is as significant. It's not like seventh inning more important than the first. That's exactly true, and you never know when that play is going to be the one that decides the game. You know, it's a difficult job, but it's a very rewarding one. You know, most of people talk about the abuse that we take, and that's one of the things that we really want to address. I mean, just in society in general today, you know, there's a certain attitude toward authority that there hasn't been in a long time. And we at the Little League level in particular take a lot of abuse in that regard, and it's very difficult to retain umpires for that reason. I mean, if you know the junior clinics that I've been in, you know, I've been to a couple in California and one in Texas and stuff that we started where there are 60 to 80 junior umpires that are 12 to 17 years old who want to umpire, and then once they get out there and they see the abuse they're taking, that's a real problem. There's a lot of people that want to get into it and say, why would I want to get this? And fortunately, Little League International is going to be at the forefront of trying to address that. We're hoping to partner with the National Association of Sports Officials, also with the National Federation of High School, to deal with that and start some programs that that make people more aware of it. So foul ball was called. They looked at it, and Salazar's back up. Strike three. And that made it clear. Hey, Jared, thanks so much for being with us. We know you love your job, and we're delighted that you're going to help us out. Good to see you. Thank you. I'm hot. Thanks for being here.
Okay. 11 minutes, Gerry Davis and the ESPN crew. Anyone have any comments, observations about what Gerry talked about? I want to share. If you do, go ahead and just unmute yourself. And
well, I think a lot of us love the phrase umpires who volunteer, Little League umpires who volunteer instead of volunteer umpires, which kind of is demeaning, or it could be demeaning, where umpires who choose to volunteer for Little League elevates the stature.
thanks, Kate. I think one opportunity we all have as Little League umpires is to start positioning ourselves in that context and using kind of that verbiage, that language with folks when they ask you why you do it, right? Well, I like to umpire. That's the first reason we do it. And then I want to volunteer for a worthy organization. So it is good. Others have comments, things from the video.
I wrote a quick note in the chat, just with experience, that the video review rules are something that I experienced for the first time doing a regional, and it was nerve-wracking. And it's not something that we experienced during the year, and so it's an added complication.
Yeah, anybody else on the meeting do a regional or World Series where you had video review, and kind of add to Kate's comment on that?
Yeah, when your family's watching their game and they're listening to the commentators making snarky comments about the reviews, it's funny.
Yeah.
When I was in San Bernardino, I got a chance to watch the some of the highlights afterwards, and I was impressed by the fact that the fellow who was there was making a lot of the commentator was making a lot of very positive comments about us and referring to us as umpires who volunteer. So, and he seemed quite knowledgeable about the game too. Definitely a difference between him and the kind of stuff that we were hearing at the Little League World Series.
Yeah. Carl Ravish wasn't the same. Yeah. No.
Yeah, Ravitch the Rat.
So it's interesting. What did Gerry say about that environment, right? Whether it's okay, we've added the video review complexity to being an umpire. There's 20,000 people in the stands. Even at San Bernardino this past year for the game between Southern California, well, the championship game of the West, right? The stadium was pretty full. So maybe 6,000-7,000 people. You know what Gerry said, hey, this is because you're a good, experienced umpire, doesn't mean you're ready to perform in the environment that they're faced with, say, when they go to Williamsport. I mean, he's talking specifically really the Williamsport context, but those of us who've been to a regional or World Series know that some of that flows into those other experiences as well. So imagine you go to Williamsport, right? And there's 30,000 people watching the game. You're constantly, you know, for 2 weeks, you're on call. You're on TV, and you really don't know what's the next assignment's going to be after about a week. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of different things go on. I think for those umpires. So to me, the takeaway for that is, for those of us even in local leagues or districts, if we get asked to do a district game and we've never done one, we've only done tournament champions, let's say, or a local league game. Boy, hey, think about what you need to know to be ready for that. What's going to be different, and get prepared. And then certainly as I ask umpires to take on assignments in sectional games or in the state level games, you know, we are selective in how we assign those, but each of you, if you get that opportunity, should spend some time trying to prepare. You know, it's just not, some of us say, oh, it's just another Little League game, but we actually know that's not the reality, because the situations are totally different when you get in those games. Gerry talked a little bit about abuse, not, you know, having an impact on retention. I think most of you are aware of, you know, Little League's program with the Diamond Leader training, which was last year was required for every international tournament manager and coach. I don't know where we're going with that this year. I mean, that's one of the programs that they have to try to get the other leaders, right? The first and second team leaders engaged, and how that really can translate into other spectators, parents, whoever, is yet to see. But Gerry talked about youth umpires coming out wanting to do the game, but then, you know, abuse kind of takes their interest away. So again, something we need to keep our eyes on. Hey, the last thing I want to share with you, so I don't know if you watched the umpire. The plate umpire was Brian Henry. Brian is the regional umpire in chief for the Southeast region out of Warner Robins. Brian is out of Georgia. Very experienced umpire. It's his third time at Williamsport. How did he miss that ball off the foot? Well, there you go. So an experienced umpire who, if you watched how he did his job behind the plate. He's definitely locked in. He was definitely not in charge of the game, but in control of the game. So how did he miss one off the foot? Well, we all miss things, right? So there you go, Brian, one of the crew chiefs, third time at the World Series. Good umpire, but he missed one. And you notice he didn't sulk or anything, and we just went on with the game. Anybody else have any reflections on that video? All right. Let's move on then. I'm trying to move on here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on training theory and umpire development. All of us are pretty experienced. Just to remind you, hey, here in District 4, we really think training, personal development is critical. Starts in your local league or starts in our district clinic. For those of you who want some more training, attend a West Region sponsored clinic, either at the regional headquarters or in an outreach. And then the way you really get stronger in your skills and confident in your ability is to find some mentor who can help you identify opportunities and give you some clear, direct feedback on how you're doing in your development. So keep those things in mind as you think about what you're going to do between now and the beginning of next season. What here in District 4 are we planning to do to help with umpire training and development? First of all, starting in October, going through at least November, maybe into early December, we plan to offer some plate umpire training with small group, live pitching using a machine in an indoor setting. We're trying to set that up right now. Some have been invited. If you're interested, if you didn't get an invite from me, then you're interested in this, let me know offline and we'll work you in. We're going to have a district-wide basic umpire clinic on February 25th. The organization structure that and location still needs to be put together. We're going to have our rules clinics again. I'm not sure exactly of the dates. These are the dates I think they are, but Jim is organizing those and has his finger on the actual dates.
Those are the dates.
What?
Those are the dates. They're all Wednesdays.
Okay.
Or Thursdays. Wednesdays or Thursdays.
Right. Thank you, Jim. And then as we get to the tournament season on May 30th, we will have our tournament umpire prep training session via Zoom. So you can put those on your calendar. One thing I want to let people know is coming up in like 6 weeks is the fall week-long umpire academy at the West Region Center in San Bernardino. There still are spaces available and you can register for that. I'm not sure what the cost is, somewhere in the $375 to $400 range. If you're interested in 6 days of instruction, sign up and attend. Starts on a Saturday and I think ends on a Friday, right? Something like that. So sign up for that. Any questions on umpire training plans, things we intend to do? Okay. The last thing on kind of umpire training issues is just to remind folks that if you were interested in a regional or World Series assignment, the process is that you self-nominate yourself in the umpire registry. That's open now. The last day is November 3rd. You can nominate yourself for any regional. World Series, you have to have some qualifications, so don't go nominate yourself for a World Series that you're not qualified for. And some questions I often get is, well, what happens after I nominate myself? Ted Boet, if you're from District 4, Ted Boet, our DA, actually gets notified as soon as you put in your nomination. So it doesn't wait until like November 4th. Ted looks at those nominations. He hopes he knows who you are. If not, he might ask me. But then his job is really say, yeah, you were a volunteer. And that, you know, in his opinion, you've umpired at those levels in which you are nominating yourself. So, and beyond that, if you really ask me how people get selected, I'll tell you, I don't know. But the region staff works together to come up with the regional and World Series umpire recommendations. November 3rd is the critical date. Okay, Jim, we're going to turn it over to you now.
Can folks see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so for those of you who have been with us the last, is this our third year, Don? I think doing
This is our third year, Jim.
Okay. So I put together videos from the World Series, from regionals that I watch. The base of videos this year wasn't quite as much. I didn't quite have the energy or time to put in quite as much as I've done in the past. But what we're using these videos for is to learn and improve our skills only. So I want to make it very clear, as I've done in the past years, no video is meant to criticize or denigrate hold on a second, an umpire. We will be seeing umpires make mistakes. And like I've always said, you know, if you videoed our games, you would see us making mistakes. So that's what we're trying to do, just learn from others and to be able to improve. We want everybody to participate in the discussion, so let others have their turn. If you want to go first, fine, but let others go first at times. And again, all these are taken from the Little League regionals and World Series. Okay, so some of these are just a few of the first ones are just some observations that I noticed. And this is one of those things that we do in the regular season at times. And guess what? They do it at regionals. So this is, these are at the Western region. And two examples, and I actually saw it in another one too, but I wasn't able to get the video for that. Umpires who call an out but signal safe. So that was just something that I saw a few times. Actually, in both the cases, everybody kind of ignored the umpire. Everybody knew the players were out and they just went ahead playing. Can anybody figure out why possibly, though, that second base umpire might have given that signal?
Jim, can you play that video over, or is it
Yeah.
all part of one video?
Absolutely. So watch this second base umpire. This one we're just going to chalk up to a brain fart.
Well, he's looking into the sun.
Yeah. And right here, we just had a player go right in front of the fielder. So either again, it was a brain fart, or he was a little bit slow in calling that's nothing and giving a safe sign.
Hey, Jim. So, Jim, I was in Waco and saw
Uh-huh.
this game live.
Okay.
I did ask one of our former colleagues who was also in this tournament as an umpire what happened. And the interesting feedback was he didn't know because these umpires did not have post games of any significance after a game.
Oh.
So there wasn't a sharing of what really happened. What I saw in this game, and you can see in the video, is that the umpire was looking at the interaction between the runner and the shortstop and was signaling that. And then because it was a routine out, just decide I don't need to signal the out at second. But it was an interesting game. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So I guess maybe one of the takeaways here is timing matters on this. So if you're going to signal that's nothing, maybe do it quick and not right when the player is actually making an out. That's the same one. Okay. So this is another thing that I noticed was happening in a lot of different regions, and actually at the World Series and at the regionals, is umpires not calling time when a batter was hit by a pitch. So that's just one example. So what does this actually look like with the umpire not calling time? To me, it actually looks like the player called it and started to head to the base, to first base. And then the umpire took the cue from the player and then pointed to first. But just remember basic mechanics. Anytime a batter is hit by the ball, our first mechanic is to call time. Okay. This is, we'll get into more discussion oriented stuff. These are first few slides are just some things that I was seeing sort of over and over. And another thing is umpires pointing at first base, especially when there's an out, there isn't a tag attempt or a tag. There isn't a sense of the first baseman's foot was off the bag, but then they got it onto the bag. But just adding a point to the mechanic, which is something that in the Western region, we do not encourage. So here's an example of it. There's that point. And I don't know if this is an advanced mechanic for calling it out. Kind of reminded me of Top Gun. One other thing from this video. watch the plate umpire. So we have a situation where nobody's on, and there's a ground ball to the infield, and there's going to be a throw to first base. So I think we all know what a plate umpire should do, but watch the plate umpire. So as the ball's hit, the umpire actually sort of somewhat like a moth to a flame, just starts walking towards the ball. And then that is her positioning right there, which is probably about between 5 and 10 feet up third base line instead of being belt buckle on line on the first base line to help with a pulled foot or anything. Does anybody have any comments about this one? Okay. So now this next one, this I'd like to open up for discussion. So this is World Series game, Curacao versus China Taipei. And I want you to watch the pitcher. The first part of the clip is he struck out a batter, and sort of see what he does. And then we're going to go to the next batter and see what he does in that case. So what I would ask you folks is, as a plate umpire or as a base umpire, regular season, postseason, how would you handle this situation? Let's watch it again. You can see he has a tendency to walk over and stare at batters he struck out.
Well, Jim, in this case,
Yeah.
I would bring his coach out, talk to him that that behavior is not acceptable, and ask his coach to talk to him.
Mhm. Would you handle this the same in regular season as postseason?
Well, I would deal with it the first time I saw it, no matter what level, what game it was.
Yeah, maybe more in regular season.
Yeah, that's where it should start.
Yep.
Others?
So some are putting some comments out in the chat, so go ahead and share them if you want.
Okay. So we have a bit of taunting, question mark. Did he engage with the batter? If so, warning to coach. So the first comment was from Mike, the second one from Kate. Brady writes, that's poor sportsmanship. And Greg says, I agree, regular season. Would anybody eject for something like this?
Not for a first offense, no.
Okay.
And another question, I think it's better to talk to his coach than to him directly at this level.
Okay.
I wonder too if, because he's clearly demonstrative when he comes off the mound, and that's probably enough. I mean, getting over to the side to talk to the batter went way too far, but I think even the, storming off the mound part, you'd at least want to try to nip it.
Okay. What I found interesting was that nobody seemed to do anything about it, as far as I could see.
So Jim, I think one of the questions is, where in the rules gives us the guidance on recognizing this action might not fit within the rules, right? So where is that?
You mean this?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things is there are several places in the rule book that deals with this. And one of the things that we need to do as Little League umpires is use the language of the rule book. And the term that's used, you can see it 3 times here, is unsportsmanlike conduct. So say if we had a collision, we don't use malicious contact in Little League. We use the term unsportsmanlike conduct. And it's very clear it can be a verbal or physical altercation. And that under 901D, we have the authority to disqualify a player, coach, manager, or substitute for unsportsmanlike conduct. And as you can see, that last part, the instructor's comments, and this all comes from the RIM, the Rule Instruction Manual for Little League. In fact, this year's. Keep in mind that the unsportsmanlike conduct or language could exist toward an umpire, the opposing team, or even a member of the same team. Do not allow bad behavior to continue, even if it's not directed at you. So clearly what Little League wants us to do is address these situations immediately as they happen.
But we want to be,
go ahead.
Excuse me, Jim. We want to be clear that we're not against demonstrative behavior. We're against when it's directed at an opposing player or even their own player.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go back. So here we have actually, let's go back to this one because there's something else that happens in this that gets sort of lost because we focus on the pitcher. I want you to focus on the batter, not that batter, this batter here. So does that behavior also warrant talk by the umpire to the coach and player?
Well, not in my opinion. I mean, you're frustrated. Got to let him show a little emotion, as long as he turns it off quickly. Okay. That's just my opinion.
So you're saying a sudden outburst like that, and then it stops, would be okay?
Well, yeah, they're 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds, and yeah, as long as it stops quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one frustration like that may be okay. Throws the bat, he's going to get a warning.
Yeah, if he's throwing the bat, that becomes a danger.
Yeah.
Anybody else have input?
He wasn't directing it at anybody else. I think he was directing it at himself. He shouldn't have swung at it, and then it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
And it's appropriate for the intensity of the moment, potentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's go on to this one. And again, this one's similar in the sense that we're looking at a batter who strikes out right before, and I just want you to get sort of how intense this catcher and pitcher are. And then we're going to go to the next batter. And on this one, you're going to focus on the catcher and talk about whether we deal with the same thing we did on the last one. Again, this is the World Series.
Oh, no. Oh, God. That's directed at an opponent.
Doesn't even look like a call had been made yet.
Yeah, he called, right. He called out and then it was reviewed and the out stood. So is this similar, the same as the other one, or is this one less or more?
Much more.
Extreme.
Yeah, I think it's worse. And the first one, when he just comes out and meets the pitcher in front of the plate, that one didn't really bother me. Big strikeout, comes out, didn't really do much. But on the next batter with that out, yeah, it's bad.
In fact, do you think it warrants an ejection? That's second behavior. It's pretty serious. That's
Pretty serious.
taunting.
And actually, when watching that quickly, it looked like a classic Little League tag and slide that's usually too high and the runner's safe. But on the replay, they clearly saw it as an out. But yeah, it was too much. Maybe an injection.
Okay, what about the rest? This almost comes very close to hitting the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's, oh, God.
He's standing over him doing it too. It's not like
Yes.
he kept off and did it. Yeah, I think he should be gone.
Others?
Draymond got a double technical for that once, I'm pretty sure.
Good point.
What do others think about this? And think, regular season versus a game like this. Very intense game. Very important game.
The rule should apply no matter what. It can't be selective. Otherwise, why have it?
Yeah, and again, I think you have to start enforcing this stuff in the regular season.
I think there's a
Maybe even
there's
in
a
football.
difference between at the plate celebration by a tag that was made or a run scored or something versus just putting it right back down in the soul of the person that you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out. Let the umpire make the call. You make the play. You can dance around off to the side maybe, but that's way over.
Would have been curious if the umpire actually called him safe, how that catcher would have reacted at that point. Anybody else in terms of, is this ejectable or not ejectable? Is this a stern talk or an ejection?
Given the age group, I don't think that I would do the stern talk to the catcher, but it reminds me of a potential intentional hit by pitch situation and a batter charging where I would potentially step in between the catcher and the batter and tell him to knock it off. I don't know about the age group. Somebody needs to know to be told to knock it off.
Okay. Well, the plate could very easily do it there. Now, remember, we're dealing with language issues here. And, you know, largely English-speaking umpire crew and foreign-speaking players who are speaking another language other than English. But yeah, easily that plate could have stepped right in and you know, put up a stop sign at the very least.
He would have been hit by the catcher.
So I guess I'll go back to, so, you know, let's just say none of us, I mean, some might, maybe there's one or so on the call who've been to Williamsport as an umpire, right? So let's kind of take aside from this being at Williamsport, during the regular season, a regular season game, what would we do? What would you do as an umpire? I mean, who's, you know, Steve, you said these are 12-year-old kids, right? In the heat of the game. So what would you do?
But Don, my problem is it's not celebration on the out, it's taunting right in the face of the runner lying down at the plate. I mean, that's overboard.
And I also think this was Jim, I think this was the third out of the inning, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So what are we gonna do, right? I mean, and I can offer my observations. One is, you know, the responsibility for players' participation in accordance with the expectations is the manager, right? So it's not the umpires. Umpires are there to apply the rules and keep the game going. We can debate that. Some of you may think the umpires have a stronger role in instructing the players. But so, you know, the opportunity here is, yeah, to prevent something bad happening, because you don't know the reaction, what's the reaction of, in this case, the Curacao player when the Venezuelan player is taunting him. But, you know, we go to the manager, right? We engage the manager and say, hey, you know, this is what I saw. This is what's going on. That's just not what we want, right? Get your kids to understand that. I mean, that's the way I would deal with it. I mean, in the Williamsport context, there's a lot of other things going on, right? There's a 2-hour time limit, basically. The game has got to get done because they're going to switch to the next game. And there's a limited time between innings because we're waiting for those who've been to San Bernardino, you're waiting for the red hat to tell the teams to go out on the field and get ready to go. And so there's not really time to stop the game, bring the two managers together out at home plate and start having a discussion. And I think the other thing that I've heard from lots of umpires is, at least at the televised regionals, and I think at the World Series, the umpires have very little interaction with the managers. They're not handling substitutions. They're not handling other game protocol things that we might be doing during the regular season. So because we didn't see it happen at Williamsport in this play, we should all believe there are another set of rules that apply to the games that are on ESPN and kind of accept that. Now, this could have blown up, but it didn't. So I just think we need to think about what would we do on that. You know, it's a Tuesday night and it's 6:30 at night and it's April and it's getting dark. And what would you do as the plate umpire if this actually happened in a game? Because imagine, you could happen, right? You could have kids that know each other. They're kind of friendly. They go to the same school and they get the out and the kid is like, haha, I got you, right? So think about how you might really handle that. So,
I can speak for myself and just say I try not to eject kids even where clearly I could eject them. I had a couple situations this year. One, district all-stars up at Petaluma, a player threw his helmet in the dugout. And I simply brought the coach over and player over and said, listen, I can eject you from that for that, and I should, but I'm not going to. And any other behavior like that, you will be ejected. I also had a player at a regular season game in Martinez, a shortstop, who was dancing out at the shortstop position, singing, "The umpire sucked, the umpire sucked, the umpire sucked." And that one I didn't eject because I had just ejected one of their coaches for behavior and language, and he had threatened that he wanted to meet me in the parking lot. And so where are those kids getting that behavior? They're getting it from their adult coaches. And so, they're just following what their coaches do. Anything else on this one? Okay, let's move on. And we went through that. Okay.
hey, Jim, before you
yeah,
move on, I'm going to
ahead.
offer something. I'm going to offer something to the group. I'm going to reach out to one of the umpires from the West who was at Williamsport and ask about those two circumstances with the Chinese Taipei pitcher and the Venezuelan catcher.
Okay.
And try to get some feedback as to how the crew there thought they should have handled that. See what we get. All right.
Okay. Sounds good. I just want to point out one more thing. It's amazing when you look at a play and focus on one thing and not another. One of the other things is this player, who is out, takes his helmet off, slams it down. Now, clearly he is really frustrated. This was a 1-0 game. So this is something you can just say, hey, player, put your helmet back on. But I want you to look at the second base umpire. So the ball's hit right up the middle. And we can see the second base umpire is looking towards second base. The ball goes into center field. He never picks up status of ball, doesn't know whether the ball has been fielded or not, doesn't know what the fielder is going to do, and the fielder is going to throw home, and he is almost in the line of the throw. So that's just something, remember, status of ball, and be aware of your surroundings and your positioning. Okay, this was at the Northwest region at San Bernardino. And this is a play, again, I ask you, say in regular season, would you have called this? Would you have not called this? So this is softball, just as a quick primer. When the ball returns to the circle and the pitcher has possession of the ball, both feet are in or partially in the circle, and the pitcher is not making a play or an attempted play, a fake throw, the player is on a base, that player must remain on the base. If that player leaves the base before the pitch is made, that player will be out. So I want you to watch this one. And sorry for the freezing. It happens twice here. So the girl hits a triple, and she is happy and is excited as heck.
Well, she's left the base.
So as you can see here, as she's jumping straight up, the ball is yet into the pitcher's hand. So right, and then the pitcher is going to step down. So the player being off the base here wouldn't count. But what counts is what comes right after, which right now the ball is in the circle. And this happens.
Technically a violation. I wouldn't call it.
Okay. So you
No.
can see, watch the third base umpire. So the ball is yet in the circle. He's watching.
It's going to call it.
So now the ball is in the circle. Right there, you see his hands come up, and he's going to call time, and he calls her out. This went to video review, and it was confirmed, and the girl was out. So would you call this or not call this?
No.
Steve says no.
Brian says no.
But maybe in a World Series.
Rules.
Rules be rules, huh?
But the natural joy of the player. Jeez.
And that rule's about taking advantage of moving when the players are not paying attention. It's not about this.
Now, a play that we generally always will call in softball is when there's a double first base and the runner runs past and touching the orange and is safe and comes back and stands on the orange, which is not considered a base at that point, and the pitcher has the ball in the circle. That's a play that we will pretty much always call.
Jim, won't you warn her the first time? Or
No.
warn the base coach? Okay.
No.
Okay.
In regular season, yes.
I'm
Regular
talking
I
regular
will-
season, yeah.
Regular season, I will say something to the base coach, you know, hey, that orange base disappears, make sure she gets on the white base. But at the level of a regional, no.
Yeah, they know the rule in the regional. They have to. I agree.
Anyway, and there's probably a lot of other examples we can think of how, you know, at what point do we say, let's let that one slide?
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
so I kind of hesitate to do this, but Ed's on the call. And Ed was at this regional. Ed, what was the crew of 12's discussion about this call? Do you mind sharing a little bit without getting into anything personal?
Well, I mean, you know, the way we handled anything that happened like that, when there was some kind of wonky call, whether it went our way or not, we, you know, just went, the way we were discussing it with Ryan there was basically just to tell him that he was being really picky. I mean, obviously he, you know, the call went in his favor on review. But we told him we thought he was being a little bit picky, and proceeded to make fun of him for the rest of the tournament.
Classy.
Yeah, we told him he better watch out and not be jumping up and down, or we might have to throw him out. So
Hey, Ed, thanks.
that was the serious discussion.
That's funny. And remember, if he didn't call it and the opposing manager saw it, they could come out and say that she violated and then go to a video review, I assume. So
That would be on the opposing manager, though.
yes, yes.
Jim, how would
Go
you
ahead.
have ruled in that? Jim, how would you have ruled? I haven't heard your opinion.
I wouldn't have called her out.
Okay.
I
Good.
would have, you know, very quietly, without my lips moving very much, told the third base coach, keep her on the bag.
Good.
And so this is that rule. with softball. The runner fails to keep contact with the base to which that runner is entitled until the ball has been released by the pitcher. So technically, yes, this should have been an out. Okay, this is something that we see a lot of, and I think as umpires, we don't always call this correctly. And actually in baseball and in softball, in this particular instance, we have a similar rule set in what we do. So watch this one. So what did that umpire do right? What did that umpire do wrong? Play it again. Picks up dirt, puts it on the ball.
Ups the ball. Yeah.
He calls time.
Yep.
Puts out the ball, explains to her what happened.
And you have to take the ball out of play.
Picks it up again.
What's that?
Ball goes.
Well, that's okay.
The ball goes in the dirt, the second ball. She picks it up. It's allowed to continue.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
There was just sort of a mishandling of the ball there.
He didn't rub the ball in the dirt or anything. Yeah, he took the ball out of play. That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay. So when a pitcher delivers the pitch with a foreign substance, and dirt is a foreign substance if applied to the ball, penalty, the pitch shall be called a ball. And so what he did not do was to call a ball. And the count was actually 3-0, three balls, no strikes.
Jim, she didn't deliver a pitch,
Never
did she?
delivered the ball.
She didn't deliver.
Okay, but it doesn't matter because, and let's go to baseball, it's saying the pitch should never be delivered.
It wasn't.
What I'm saying is once you do it, it doesn't, you're supposed to stop it. But that is an illegal pitch, applying a foreign substance to a ball. The only reason that pitch was not delivered was because the umpire stops it prior.
Well, then isn't that the failure, right? Allow her to deliver the pitch. Whatever happens, the batter can take the hit or the ball.
Well, this is a case
Stop
where
it before the pitch.
we want to be proactive.
Yeah, but the rule talks about a delivered pitch.
Anybody else want to chime in here?
I agree. You have to deliver the pitch for it to be a violation. That's why you're taking the ball out of play.
Do you say that would be the same for baseball too, if a baseball player did that?
Well,
Line B says when the pitcher delivers the pitch with a foreign substance applied to the ball. Doesn't say when the pitcher prepares to pitch, it says you have to deliver it. And I think the point is, if he delivers the pitch or she delivers the pitch and a hit happens, then the team can take that out or take that outcome. But otherwise, it's a ball.
I'm just thankful none of you video my games.
I'm right there with you.
That's a challenge, Mike. That's a challenge. Challenge accepted. No. So this is baseball.
right.
For
I
me,
can see in baseball.
careful
Yeah.
about
Well, and it
knowing-
says, as with the elements of Rule 802A1, The pitch should never be delivered. Call the violation when it happens.
But look at the penalty. It says call the pitch a ball. So there's a pitch and warn the pitcher. If a play occurs, the manager of the offense may advise the plate umpire of acceptance of the play. And that's the point I was making. Let's say that somebody throws a goober ball up there and the batter hits it. You can elect to take your hit.
Even though you should stop the delivery if you possibly can.
Agreed. We need to be proactive in seeing that and stopping it.
Okay. Let's go to where am I at? Let's go to bringing the pitching hand in contact with the mouth or lips. And here's a difference between baseball and softball. In baseball, if you bring your hands to your lips on the rubber, it's automatically a violation. If you bring the hand to the mouth within what's considered a 10-foot circle or 12-foot circle or 18-foot circle, depending on what level you play, you have to distinctly wipe it off. And if you don't, if you touch the ball before you wipe it off, that is a violation. And here, if you look at instructors' comments, and for violation, call a ball and warn the pitcher. Realistically, the pitch in this circumstance should never be delivered. The call should be made immediately when the pitcher touches their hand to the mouth or when they touch the ball in the other circumstance. So it is a ball.
Yep.
And then for this is softball, the pitcher shall not apply a foreign substance of any kind to the ball, pitching hand, or fingers. Pitcher may bring the hand in contact with the mouth or lips. Softball does not even make a distinction about whether it's in the circle or not, or that the pitcher is on the rubber or not. But like baseball, you have to wipe it off. When it talks about it's an illegal pitch, the illegal pitch actually only applies to use of a rosin bag inappropriately. So as you can see, softball presently does not have a rule that will charge an automatic ball to the batter for bringing the pitching hand to the mouth or lips while in the circle. It's only if you're convinced that that they're defacing the ball or they gain an unfair advantage, only then will you call an illegal pitch in that circumstance. So that's a difference between softball and baseball.
But look at the warning. Unless you are absolutely certain that an advantage is gained, no infraction.
Okay. Yep.
Jim, in
Yep.
Major League Baseball, umpires can give the pitchers permission to go to their mouth because of weather. Does that exist in Little League?
Yes, it does. They can blow on their hands if the umpire discusses it with the managers and there's an agreement before the game.
Okay.
Almost positive about that one. I just want to show you something. This is from last year's. I don't think we watched this last year. This is from last year's. This is a Hawaii pitcher. He did this almost every time. He did it at the regional and he did it at the World Series, and he was never called on this.
Ooh, that's the ball with the dirt. Wow.
There he picks up dirt, he touches the ball, then he wipes his hand off. He did this continuously at the regional and World Series, and he was never warned or called on it.
Should have been.
Let's do one more. Is that all right, Don?
One more, Jim.
Okay. So we actually had this on the Gerry Davis interview. So here we have some examples of players getting hit by the ball in the box. So if you look at that player there, is her foot in fair territory? Probably yes, because part of the batter's box is in fair territory. So what happens when a batter hits a ball that then hits themselves before a fielder and it hits them in fair territory?
Even though her foot's still in the batter's box. Interesting.
Well, here we have, you actually, if you read through the rule book, it is absolutely silent on this. There is nowhere in the rule book where it states that a batter is protected within the batter's box. We only have this: a fair ball touches said batter before touching a fielder, that batter is out. However, in our rim, and actually written into most rule sets other than Little League, we have this. When this happens, it is almost always the batter leaves the box. Make sure the batter is entirely out of the box when you call this, otherwise call foul ball. So if they're in the box, no matter if they're in that fair territory part, the batter is protected, even though in the regular rule book is silent on that. One other thing I'd like to point out with this very quickly, and that is, what do we do as an umpire when that happens? Well, we call time, right?
Yeah, or kill the
Here's
play.
one. Here's one where the plate umpire didn't see it, and rightfully so. He can't see that. He doesn't know it's happened yet, but we can see the second base umpire, and now we see the third base umpire are all killing this play. Now the question is, what should you as a base umpire call? Do not call foul, call time.
Yep.
This is something that Jeff Shue has emphasized with me, is that you're going to leave the call of foul up to the plate umpire. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, yeah, all you're doing is killing it. And I had a second base umpire kill it and call foul from second base. That was not good.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of umpires in Little League, you will hear them come up and call foul. And what should be called is time. Let the plate umpire make the foul call. Okay, Don.
All right, Jim, you get on.
Yep. Where are we?
Okay. So I want to kind of wrap up here unless people have any other questions. So I think this has been a good session. You know, we're knock the rust off, get back into it. And we're going to do this again next month, October 25th. Same time, register the same way you registered for this one. And we will take up some more topics. I took a couple items from tonight that I'm going to go research. I think maybe we got another one there, Jim. We got to the end that we might want to ask about, but we'll see if we can get some more input. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll look forward to having you with us next month.